that it was always supposed to be an event for Tasmanians. So it was, in a kind of weird way, it was kind of cool that it was.
We finally had a chance to, lock it down and be like, oh, this is our event.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to the Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod, your weekly engagement here into real estate in the Hobart Marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined by our 414 Property Co. sales agents, directors, all of the above, Patrick Berry and John McGregor.
Gentlemen. Oh, this is like a wrestling intro.
Yeah, I've done one of those before, and I got quite excited this morning. I'm a few too many coffees deep at the moment, but yeah, we're getting there. It's a cold morning. Actually,
it is frosty.
Day of recording, let it be known it is the winter solstice.
Oh, right.
And all those people were nude down at the Long Beach in Sandy Bay.
Damn.
Jumping in that water.
So that's why you're late to work this morning, Az.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Funnily enough, I've been working on a blog piece, or we've been working on a blog piece about how much we love dark mofo here.
Yeah.
And at the end, it was like, and it always is capped off with the people jumping in the water. None of us have ever done it. Not once. No way, Jose.
I don't know if I really want it to be. I mean, I've done nudie runs and, nudie swims at the beach. I don't know if I need that to my tick box, if that makes sense. I don't know.
I reckon John in his 70s is down there with the red cap on. They're still doing it.
It's amazing. I love Dark Mofo. Dark Mofo is one of my favourite festivals. It's amazing that so many people, especially Tasmanians, are out in force in the coldest part of winter. It's literally always over the longest day, or the winter solstice is when we have our shortest day. Sorry, I've said the wrong way around.
Longest night.
Longest night. There you go. Thank you very much for the save. But just to see so many people out and about in Hobart, this year obviously a little bit different with Victoria kind of being locked out of the state, because I think we read a stat that said 65% of the tickets sold are normally interstate people. So only like 45% of people that go to the events generally are out-of-staters. Okay. But this year kind of, there was a block on lots of people coming. So it's really been Tassie people, Tasmanians out in force driving this event this year.
Yeah, I think I also heard like the curators of the event were saying as well that it was always supposed to be an event for Tasmanians. So it was, in a kind of weird way, it was kind of cool that it was.
We finally had a chance to, lock it down and be like, oh, this is our event for our day. But look, it's amazing. It's a world-class event that is held in our backyard in the time of the year when nobody normally goes outside.
Oh, without question.
Like you bunker down, you hibernate. We do have really, really cold temperatures here. There was frost on the car this morning. People are out in the nud, jumping in the water, all for the sake of art.
Yeah, and I think what was really cool is it just brings the city to life. The amount of people that were out over the weekend was just huge. There was people everywhere, lines to get into nearly every event that was on. It was just fantastic to see.
Well, and like you said, people with lines everywhere. But from through the city part, where they call it Darktown, wasn't it?
Yeah, Darktown.
And then all the way through into Salamanca as well, where there were other elements, was unbelievable.
It's just amazing also to see kind of the reimagining of spaces that you've been to and kind of just looking at them with a different light. Like I heard you discussing with someone how the street lights were turned off next to the Odeon and it just completely changed the vibe of the street.
Yeah.
And look, before obviously when they had Dark Park down at Macquarie Point, that space was always awesome because it's old abandoned warehouses and it's spread out and it's like this wasteland that you're sort of walking through. And when they said they weren't doing that there anymore because they can't, you kind of wondered how they could recreate such an amazing feel.
Definitely.
Freaking hell, they did a great job.
We actually started heading over that way. We were leaving the winter feast. We'll go over to where Dark Park always is over by that point. And then someone had just said, oh, no, you've got to go up to town. We're like, oh, geez, we're lucky we heard that. We would have been just in the middle of nowhere.
But it's really cool to go through the area where Dark Town was this year in the daylight and then to see it at night. It's just the way that they create the space and connect the locations together through city blocks is just crazy.
Yeah, we're even jumping up into the old K&D warehouse. Like how many times you've been to K&D to grab some nails or some
meat pie from the canteen.
Yep, all of that stuff. And then you're going in, and I think it was one of your favourites, Pat, that you were saying, what was it, 3.2 or something?
3.20 or something it was called. I'm not sure. Probably just butchered that. But anyway.
But can you describe it for the listeners that wouldn't have got a chance to go, like what it was?
So if you remember K&D, it's a big giant hardware warehouse. Yep. And they basically turned it into a big rectangle room with big giant curtains. So it's like a confined space. And then they've installed these rows of lights and they sort of go up the wall and then join across the roof. And then it's a couple of meters and then there's another one and so on and so on and so on down this big giant rectangle. And then these lights work with the noise and it's kind of
It was eerie. It was
but cool.
really eerie, yeah.
Like, reminded me, John, you know those horror films that you watch and the bad guys in the corridor and the monsters coming towards them and each light just keeps turning off?
Yep.
They had a sequence like that.
Oh,
built into
wow.
it. And so it went from like being bright and then it's boof, 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 boof. And like the lights are just turning off in front of you and you're like, oh, we're about to get murdered. One of those Resident Evil zombies is about to come out and get me. And then but then you described it completely different, Aaron.
Yeah, the way I felt is like we went in and it felt like one of those kind of sci-fi movies where the aliens are coming to abduct us and, they're scanning across. It was like,
oh, yeah.
Because everyone was just kind of standing still looking and the light was kind of making them silhouettes and it was just like, wow, this is really eerie.
Yeah, and then that one guy just rose up.
He rose up and we never saw him again. No, but like it's nuts that's a space that I think actually we've talked about how the uni own it and they're going to redevelop the space into stuff. I think it's being used as basketball courts at the moment for like the jack jumpers and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they use it as a training facility. So if it was all the lights were on, you would have seen basketball courts, which again, reimagining the space, but reimagining it into a third kind of purpose within the year of it closing and not being there anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Dark Mofo's been going now since 2013, so it's been around a while. And every year they seem to find new spaces to host events.
Yeah, and you kind of
to coordinate it must be amazing.
Random locations that you'd never get to experience. Like in those early years of Dark Mofo, you're going under the city, under the city in these old tunnels, or you're going up to the watchtowers, and like you're walking all over the place to go into these dark, dingy hallways to see a random bit of art and walk back out.
Yeah,
but everyone does it.
Yeah, and you'll wait a long time to experience it. Yeah.
And it's the middle of the winter and everybody's out and about. So, yeah.
That's what's cool.
To all the Tasmanians out there that did get out there, like, thank you for being a part of it and thank you for making it what it is because I really want to see it again. I love the Winter Feast. I'd probably say I'd put the Winter Feast over the Taste of Tasmania.
Every day of the week.
There's such a variety of food, so much different stuff.
And because it's winter, they're all hearty meals. They're like big meat dishes and I don't know, it's something. It feels like you get a dinner when you go to the Winter Feast. When you go to the Taste of Tas, you go in the afternoon or in the sun and it's more about the drinking. But you go to Winter Feast and you get a nice big stout or a whiskey or something, like a really heavy drink.
Yeah, hot toddy. Yeah. Like there's so much different stuff
and
that
then
is down there.
Couple that up with some really good food and it's a better atmosphere. The fires are all going, the lights are all on. It's just
my little one Jack was just obsessing over the little fire towers that were just shooting off these, just like looking up and kind of reaching up and just being like trying to blow them out. So,
well, he was obviously being very successful because obviously they'd fire up and the go. He's like, "Oh, I did that.
Yeah, I did a good job. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I'll have to tell him, keep praising for
his efforts.
Yeah, look. So no, we just wanted to talk about that before we jumped into any property stuff. We just wanted to say, congratulations to the organisers and for all the Tasmanians out there that got amongst Dark Mofo 2021. Cracking event. Let's hope it's continues on
Absolutely.
From here. So what I wanted to talk about today, we've chewed up a bit of time with that, but we actually had a few people reach out last week about the photography and preparing your place for sale. So there's a few people out there that really wanted to cover off again on just preparing their place for sale. So we were talking about it
from specifics.
Yeah, well, we're talking about it from the perspective of if you've got an empty place or you want to do some like staging. Or they're asking, what's the best way to do it if I don't want to stage it, I just want to have...
Well, I live in the house and I can't stage it.
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting at.
So what I'm getting at is, what's the best way to photograph our place like as is so that, how can we present it in the best light? So we kind of just put a list together. We thought we'd just go from room to room and kind of talk about this is a really good way of getting about it. I'm in lots of houses taking the photos. You guys are there kind of giving advice on how to take them. So we thought we'd just kind of give a little rundown on some tips and tricks to prepare your house to be photographed.
And look, these aren't things that are going to cost you really anything to do. It's just more about being mindful that they exist.
Absolutely.
No, it's kind of like we've got the photographer coming in a few days' time. If you want to do a few of these things, it will just help make things that little bit smoother. If you can't do them, that's fine. Maybe they can help do it when they get there. But if you want to kind of just present it in its best light, 4 photos for the market Here's some tips.
Right, let's start it off with front of house.
Well,
So
yeah,
that's
it's-
front yard, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, it just seems like the obvious place to start. It's kind of generally when you're advertising it online, the first photo you see is what we call the hero photo, the photo of the house from the front facade.
And the front of house is probably also just not so much for photo day, but for the life of the listing. Some of the other rooms you have to live in and you can't keep them show ready every single day, but the front of house is probably something that you do want to push pretty hard.
Bear in mind, people are
Driving by,
trying to find that sideboard
Yeah.
to have a look and see. And I know my normal rule for when it comes to the gardens and presentation that way is you really just want to make sure your house doesn't look neglected.
Yeah.
For starters, there's a very big difference between I think manicured, messy, and neglected. And the first step when it comes to thinking about that is we all get busy, but what's the first element is de-wetting, mowing the grass so that everything looks like it's been, it's easy to look after in that sense to start with.
Yeah, so mowing the lawn is a big one. Sometimes it's the middle of winter and it's really hard to get out there and do it. But if you do get a chance, it's really good to mow the lawns. A really simple one for photo day, and it might be something that you do when someone like myself or Sebastian, our media guru, show up is moving the car out of the drive.
Yeah. Or the trailer.
Or the trailer.
unless it's Chris's Porsche, then you can put it in the driveway to make the house look better.
Yeah, damn.
Well, see, that's an
Good
interesting
neighbours.
idea. Like if you wanted to kind of pump it up.
What are the neighbours like? Success.
Yeah.
So now we're parking the car in the neighbours property. You get along well with those neighbours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it depersonalizes the space. It opens it up and you can see it. If you've got a big Pajero or a Prado or Tiguan, what you've got, Pat, if that's in the way of kind of getting the best angle of the house, it's one thing that can change that first impression that you get when you're looking for it online.
Yeah.
One extra thing that I like as well, and it will cost you a little bit of money, this one, but it's the letterbox. If it looks shitty, you need to replace it. And they're not that dear at Bunnings. Like you can get a really cheap, neat and tidy one for, anywhere from $50 to a couple of $100.
And again, it's just one of those things where it's showing that we don't neglect this. It's just kind of, this is one of the things where we take pride in. This is our place.
I love a letterbox with the street number on the letterbox.
Yeah.
I think that just
Add
looks
the number.
really nice at the front of the house and it just makes the house look better.
Well, and it's all about that story because always people are searching for what's really going on behind here that I can't figure out. And all those little things start to build a story in their mind. An example, when we had that one at Farnham Court, there was 3 units. There was the third one that was neglected. Unit 1, great letterbox. Unit 2, great, neat little letterbox. Unit 3, the lid was missing and was rusted and bent. You're like, what happened here? So that's where that little bit of detail can make a big difference.
And they're the kind of things that when you're looking for a house, you're looking at those little things to try and get that edge over the rest of the things. Like, oh, all right, yeah, I'm starting to get a vibe of how this place has been kept. That's really something I'm thinking about.
And the last thing, with that too, is all the pathways. So make sure they're all nice and clear and like in line as they should be. So that's like Karcher, the concrete, if you have to look, to clean it up a little bit, get rid of that moss and all the slippery elements. And also in the gardens with the weeds, well, then that's what we're going to do is the bare minimum is, cover all, if it's all really messy and mixed, find some kind of mulching element, be it pine bark or other bits, and cover it all up.
So hide it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice, John.
And then it looks nice and consistent.
Hide those weeds.
Hide the hard
Can't
work.
Get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly. Just cover it.
Look, it's a technique.
Exactly.
Room 2.
Yeah, so like once you've entered through the hallway, you're kind of then thinking the major selling points of the house seem to always be the kitchen and the living area. They're kind of the 2 main areas that you'd focus on first, and then you'd move into the bedrooms. Is correct?
Makes sense.
I would have thought so.
Yep.
Well, we don't want to miss the hallways. Just make sure nothing's in the way that you can bang your foot on.
Oh, look, 1,000% good for when you're kind of doing the showings and stuff like that, but generally not taking a lot of photos of hallways. Sometimes they're the place that we can then pop some things into. But again, it's always good to have them clean and ready.
Sorry.
Sorry to just throw you under the bus.
I was thinking showings. Keep going.
Yeah. This is my domain. Don't mess with my stuff.
Damn.
Aaron's going to turn your level down, John. No more input from John. Decluttering's got to be the most important one, isn't it, Aaron?
Decluttering in the kitchen, massive.
Yep.
Kitchen is a space that gives you another clue into how the home's treated and how people look after it. So if you're getting in there and there's stuff all in the sink, there's stuff all over the counter, you've got kind of the breakfast that said, I didn't have time to sort this out before the photos were taken.
Yeah.
It does get really tricky.
And just the fridge, the front of the fridge, just take the magnets off, take the kids' artwork off, all those things that, yes, they're important to you, but they're not to a purchaser, and they can make a house feel cluttered and small.
Yep.
Yet if we can get the fridge being empty, it feels, clean, tidy. It feels a bit more open if they're not drawing to all of that extra stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Definitely. And another one
I've got a few tricks I can do with that one though.
Yeah, but we're looking at the sales side of things as well, Aaron. You can just Photoshop them out.
Yeah, go to town.
Well, we're just talking photographs today, boys. We're not talking about these these showings.
The other thing with
But if they do it once, it's done.
Yeah, and look, and this is something you can talk to the agent about, or you can talk to the photographer when they're coming in, just saying like, "What do you think about this, dude?" And lots of the times, it's one of those things where it's like, "Oh, look, if this is how it's lived in, like this is fine. We just need to tidy up a few little things and pop, the drip dry tray just down under the sink, just for the moment.
Yep.
We can get it back out a bit later.
Yeah. Dining room.
Dining room, another one that's strange because lots of houses don't seem to have your traditional dining room like it used to be back in the day. They're kind of open plan spaces.
Dining.
So it's kind of working out whether, you have it set up in the dining idea.
So what do you think, Aaron? Cutlery, plates, no plates?
I would say no plates. I would say unless you're in a mansion, you probably just want to set it up with kind of the idea of this is a space that does get used, but we don't have a full all the forks and stuff there.
So this is where a bunch of flowers or something could come in. Just
bunch of flowers,
give it a
fruit
pop
bowl.
of colour.
Yep. One of the things that kind of would make it pop is just that little extra touch of something to balance out the table. Again, like we were discussing last week, a glass table sometimes works in a space if it's small, so you can see through it and you can kind of get a sense of depth in the space. Whereas, if you've got a big table and it looks bare, that's when you're going to need to pop something on there. Maybe not knives and forks like you're preparing for dinner.
Yeah, but just something as it presents neatly.
Yeah, yeah. So then that often then flows through into the lounge room, and this is a space where I'm often encouraging people to take images down off the wall. Famous on the podcast is the lady with the lingerie above the bed.
Yeah.
Your recommendation was let's take that down.
That's right.
I would say to depersonalize the space, take down as many pictures as you can. Sometimes they're nice to sell the idea of this is a family home. Again, it's something that can be done in the computer if we need to. But yeah, just another nice little thing where it's kind of taking away. Look, another one is like all the little Marvel toys or things. If you collect all the
pop figurines,
and stuff like that, and you've got them all in the boxes. Yeah, they're really cool if that's your thing. They don't often help sell houses. Just an idea, just a thing. I was in one the other day and I was just like, man, this would photograph so much better if Deadpool wasn't like looking at everyone. Remember your one with Freddy Krueger? No, that was Martin's. That was Martin's. Martin had a full bust.
Full-size Freddy Krueger statue. Walk into the bedroom and there he is looking at you.
That's awesome.
Imagine waking up to that, Freddy Krueger just looking at you, just being just like, I'm in your dreams.
I could not go to sleep with that giant statue. And we're talking like your size, John.
Oh, like, life-size Freddy
like
Krueger.
with his like claw hands. Just like,
It was mighty impressive.
Yeah,
Sorry, we're digressing.
Well, I do remember seeing a listing once from an agent in Queensland where right in the dead centre was one of those contraptions, like was effectively, can you say a sex swing if we're getting
I knew you were going to go down this path at some point.
It's like legitimately it was one of like a bondage sort of setup, unbelievable, right, dead set in the lounge room.
So how much did you offer for the place?
Well, it was a rough year. I thought about it. I did DM and say how much would it cost to send that down.
Yeah, good call.
And now it's home.
Yeah.
Speaking of actions that happen in the bedroom, maybe we move forward to the bedroom.
True.
So setting up your bedroom, it's another one of those things where things on the floor probably don't work. If your clothes are in a pile like they are at my place next to the bed, I get in so much trouble for leaving them there. It's probably recommended that we put them away, put them in a wash basket. We can move them. Setting up the bed, having the bed
Just
made, always helpful.
Bed.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds really silly, but the amount of places that the bed's not made when we're ready to take photos.
It sounds like we're telling people something they should already know, but we're telling people that because they don't do it. Like it just seems ridiculous.
And the thing is too, is that yes, it's understandable if you've got multiple, you're trying to organise your children that morning. But it does make a huge difference when it's just presented neatly. I know if this might be a little one, if you can to spend a little bit of money, but if you have mismatched covers and like pillows, etc., see if you can find a way of making them match.
So get rid of the old Alf Duna cover that you had from when you were a child, John.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough.
Did you have Alf?
I didn't, but I've got an Alf doll still at home.
Yeah.
I think mine was white cars and buses. I think it was.
White cars and buses.
I had Transformers. I had Soundwave. Like you remember the one that had the tape
of course,
deck?
the tape deck.
I was going to say boombox, but yeah.
Yeah, it's had that in it. So, yeah, I was pretty impressed with that as my bed sheets. Wish I still had them for Jack.
And the other,
I'm sure Sarah wishes you.
Yeah, very true.
I suppose the other part too with the bedroom is bedside tables. So
Very helpful.
So then again, getting all those little extra bits that sometimes just accumulate there, and this is one that we might have missed for all the rooms, but extension cords that wrap around the room trying to connect different electronic devices because you wanted to charge them where they probably don't need to be, but make sure that all those as many cords are hidden as possible.
I like that one.
One I've seen recently is the NBN cable. Because
of
NBN
course.
Co's put the box in a stupid spot. So instead of hiring someone to go and run the cable through the wall, the amount of houses I've been into lately, and it just
Giant
runs, this
Ethernet
thick
cable.
blue cable just runs all the way through the freaking house.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable.
Exactly.
I'm like, let's unplug them. Let's just unplug them and pack them away, and we can put them back out that night when we want to watch our Netflix.
But just for the photos.
Yeah.
This is all we're talking about. We
Yeah.
need 5 minutes of your time, you know?
Yeah, all we're talking about is, again, presenting the place in its best light. And it's just one of those things where, there might be some things that we need to move around, and we're just doing them from our professional standpoint, just saying, like, we've done this a few times before. We think this would be the best way to do it. I will tell you my number one, which we haven't covered yet, but my number one request whenever I'm getting into the house is the lacy, we call it tulle. Is that the name of it?
Creates privacy but doesn't add any advantage to the photo.
Yeah.
Yes. So the really tricky thing with
Grandma's house. If you think of Grandma's house, she's most likely got it on the window.
Those white lacy curtains.
like number one, first thing I do when I walk into a house is look at the windows and be like, how much light is coming into these windows? To get the photos looking the best that they can, we want as much natural light beaming through the windows.
Yeah.
Those things kill the natural light.
Yes, exactly.
So anytime I walk in, I'm just like, would you mind? I just would like to take these down. It will make the photos go from a level 5 to a level 10.
Yeah.
Simply by doing that. We could have all the rest of the things that we've said
Just do that one thing.
and
at
just do
least.
that one thing, and it will help 1,000%.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Definitely.
The other thought too, I think, just on the note of like bookcases and, you know, where like DVDs are slowly becoming a thing of the past, but often on different elements of storage in any room, because they can be anywhere, you'll have one shelf that just has like way too much stuff on it. And again, it's that element of just removing that as much as possible so it looks nice and neat, as if you're almost a little bit too OCD, but it just ends up being a much more pleasant element to look at in the photo that doesn't, it disappears from your field of view as opposed to grabbing your
Yeah, exactly. So what we're trying to do is maximize the space and make it look as good as it can without drawing your eye away to
where
something
you
like
want it to
that.
be.
So your Deadpool or your Freddy Krueger or any of those characters that are kind of, you're looking at the photo and you're like, oh, hold on a sec, like that's a Deadpool over in the corner.
That's that's a Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
That's a box of rat poison. I don't need to see that.
So that's our aim, and that's what we're trying to do when we're there to do it. We want to make it look like it could fit well into a magazine or in Better Homes and Gardens, and they come in and just say, or one of the house flipping shows.
Absolutely. Remember too, is now we're doing the 3D walkthrough tours. This is all still part of the same element. So people are seeing a lot more than they otherwise once would have.
Yeah, very true. So it's not, your framed photograph where it's kind of like, oh, this is just it from this angle. It's you can see it from all the angles and kind of be like, so often what we're doing is moving things from place to place, room to room, to be like, okay, we're focusing on this section here, but the camera can see it all. So we've got to kind of hide the stuff there till we move it to the next spot. So there's a fair bit that goes into it. If you'd have told me before I had this job that you would have full-time employees sorting this stuff out, I would have said that is crazy. But that's the nature of the game now.
And again, you know, it harks back to what we talked about before. All these little elements take away from what the shot you're trying to sell, which is the space, and every little part just takes takes your attention away.
You've talked in the past about taking the butts away.
That's it.
So we're trying to get
eliminate the butts.
We're trying to eliminate as many butts as we can, and these are just some tips that we would say, like, we'll come in and we'll help you with it. But if you're listening along and you were listening last week and you thought like, oh, I wonder how I actually can get my house ready.
Yeah,
these are just some of the tips. We sound like we're harping on.
Well, it does when you do bit by bit by bit by bit. It's just like a giant to-do list, isn't it? Really, it is what it is, you know. So, I mean, I know I don't present my house day to day as if it was ready for photo shooting. So I know there'd be a lot that I would have to do.
Yep.
So it's just half of the course.
What? You don't?
Well, actually, if it was you, Aaron, I'd promise to leave some dirty undies out.
You would. Oh, you would.
Oh, I would.
All right, guys. Just generally, it's one of those things of keeping the place tidy. help us help you, I think is what we're trying to get at.
Yeah, and this last one then I suppose with general items where you've talking about make sure all the globes are working. And
all
the same colour as well.
It sounds a really silly one, but if you've got one room that's got like a yellow light and one room that's got a white light, it definitely changes the feel, and it just breaks up your attention as you're traveling through each. And you're like, oh, how come this one's just a little bit got a different hue to it?
Yep.
It just helps to have.
And there might be 100 watt, then a 40 watt in the same room too. So it's completely disjointed.
Yeah. So just another little thing that can just make a big difference. And when we're talking in a market that's so busy, like these things can make a big difference when you're kind of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing goes for rental properties too.
I'd like you to elaborate on this one, Aaron, in our notes. Make sure that all hanging furniture is aligned accordingly. What's a hanging furniture apart from John's swing?
Well, if you think about those hanging, I like the swing. They're very, very good.
Which is perfectly aligned. Trust me.
I would think you're hanging plants.
Oh, is that where you're going? Yeah.
Yeah. So the hanging plants, like you've got the ones that hang in the bathroom, or I can show you some examples.
Or a picture frame.
Well, yeah, in the notes we do have photos and wall art, but yeah, that's where I would go with that, Pat. Cool. But yes, John's thing, we could make sure it's not front and center unless it's a real selling point that you want to go for.
It is important. You don't want to hit the wall after all.
Maybe.
All right. And on that note,
it's game over.
Loose and fast tonight.
Yeah. No, look, thank you for joining us once again. We've all had a bit of fun at Dark Mofo, and it's been a good week.
Yeah.
Winter solstice, so we've just got through the shortest day, longest night. Thank you for the save there, Pat. We will see you all next week back at the Property Pod.
Boom. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Bye. You have been listening to the Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Code.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek and use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional